If y'all knew what it took for me to get this video all for y'all, I hope you know where I'm at now. It should be self-explanatory. Do you know that you can be blessed from being obedient to God, just listening to God? There's a scripture in Genesis 4:7. It was a story, I want to say, with Cain and Abel. Genesis 4:7, it says, you will be accepted if you do what is right. You will be accepted if you do what is right. For when doing what is right means being obedient to God, following God's rules, following His commands, wherever He's leading you. That is when we're obedient to God, when we please Him, when we do what He says. But we're disobedient because we like to do opposing to that, right? We like the sound of being obedient to God. We want to be obedient to God, to listen to God, until He says something that is opposing to what we do, how we feel, or what we like. It's easy to follow God when He agrees with you, like, yeah, me and Him on the same side. But when He says something opposing, when He opposing what you like, He says to give this up or stop doing this, or I want you to take this route, it's like, whoa, I don't feel like doing that. And we can't be obedient to God in that way, because that's not pleasing to God. That's doing the wrong thing. And we do that because we live our lives based on how we feel. We respond to people based on how we feel. When we wake up in the morning, when we decide what we're gonna do that day, it's based on how we feel. We eat of how we feel, right? It's just our natural humanly natures. But when you're trying to be obedient, when you're obedient to God as a child of God, sometimes what He says isn't gonna align with how you feel at the moment. Kind of like as a child. When you were a child, you might not feel like taking out that trash, feel like washing dishes, but it don't matter if you feel like that. Your parents, when your mom, I don't know about you, when my mama say do it, my dad say do it, it best to get done, depending on if I feel like it or not, in a timely manner. And in a timely manner, it better get done. Just like when we're obedient to God, whether I feel like it or not, it needs to be done in a timely manner as well. We can't do it when we can't obey God when we feel like it, or when we're gonna get around to it, because regardless of it, that's disobedience. It's all disobedience. And we can't live our life based on how we feel, because the issue with that is we think our feelings are always right. We think how we feel is always the best. But our feelings can have anger, jealousy, envy, just unwise. We make bad decisions all the time based off how we feel, and we can't make those decisions based off how we feel. So in order to follow God, you must follow Him when you don't feel like it. That takes persistence. Persistence is doing something even when you don't feel like it, even when it's hard. So we must follow God even when it's hard and we don't feel like it. But I got a verse in the scripture for you today. The scripture goes, don't grow weary in doing what is good, because at a proper time you will reap a harvest. So what that basically means is don't get tired of doing good, because at the right time you will receive a blessing. So obedience brings us blessings, because when we are listening to God and obedient to God, even when we don't feel like it, even when we don't want to, even when we don't think that's the best way to go, even when we do that, that brings us a blessing. Like, that being obedient to God isn't for no reason. No, there's a blessing that comes from that, and we receive. And if when we listen to God, there's a blessing, because God knows better than we know. Sometimes we think our feelings are like the wise. Sometimes we think we're so smart, right? We're so smart. We're smarter than the one who created us, the guy who created this entire universe. We think we're smarter than Him. But little do we know is He's in control of everything, and He knows the stuff that's not even that's in the future that we don't even see yet. So sometimes God is telling us to do something, and in the natural it looks like that doesn't make sense at all, but God knows what's going to happen next. So what looks like a good idea to you, what looks in your idea is the best route to go, you don't know what's next to come, and what your plan, your way of doing things might fall apart. So we saying, hey, don't go that way. I'm actually going to protect you from the chaos of going your way and come this way. And if you're obedient to me, you will receive a blessing from listening to me. So obedience takes persistence, because we have to do it when we don't feel like, but also it comes with a blessing. You're not just doing this in vain. It's not just hard for no reason. No, there's a blessing that comes from that. So I just want to encourage you guys to be obedient to God. Get close to God. Find out what he's saying through his word. Get close to him through your prayers. And when you find out what he says, obey it. And that's a muscle, because we're disobedient all the time. But the more and more we can become obedient, the more and more we can practice that, the more obedient we can come, and the more blessings and favor we'll receive in our life. I love y'all, man. Sign off from the New Orleans Superdome. The Atlanta Falcons come down here and play the New Orleans Saints, and we need this game to go to the playoffs, so you already know who I'm rocking with, the Saints, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, if y'all knew what it took to get this video off,